Hey y'all, it's Crystal. Thanks for coming by today. We are going to try to do a quick September wrap up for my reading because I didn't do a mid-month check-in and I read 25 book things this month or in September, so I got a lot to talk about. I am back to having some editing issues because of like my old phone and like storage things, and you know how that is. So this may or may not again be an edited video. If you see like pictures added, then I was able to at least do a little bit, but let's get moving because got a lot to chat about. Okay, so September was super fun. I co-hosted a couple of events that I had super fun with, of course, one being Shorty September. I just want to thank Heather again for reaching out for, to ask me to co-host this year. I love Shorty September, and I always read a lot in September because of Shorty September. And this September was no different. Reading 25 things, that's a lot. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I just had a really fun time with it. And so yeah, I had fun. Just had fun with it, and I'm glad for everyone that enjoyed it and joined us, Heather and Karen and I, for Shorty September again. So I hope you had a fun time. So I did Shorty September. I also co-hosted with my friend Jason from Jason Weird Reads. We did another Week of Weird. We do those twice a year, and had another fun time with Week of Weird. So I mean, really, it was just a fun time all around. So again, let's quit yapping and let's get going. I started the month. I'm just gonna go off on my list here because look, it's a long one. Started off reading Galloways Gospel by Sam Rebelein. I had this arc from NetGalley, loved it, 5 stars, continuation kind of his stories that are set. And if you read his previous book, Edenville, is kind of set in that same kind of universe or whatever you want to call it, Renfield County, and continues the story of the weirdness that happens in this area. And I do have a book chat for this video, so I'm just going to link that below if you missed it and you want to hear more about my thoughts. But I loved it, absolutely loved it, and we'll just go from there. Okay, so next, I read In Water. This was mostly my Week of Weird, or leading up to Week of Weird type stories. I read In Watermelon Sugar. I'm reading my list here, by Richard Brautigan. Very strange little story. I don't even know how to describe this. Honestly, it's like follows these people that are like, they live in this like weird kind of, I don't even know how to, I don't know how to explain this book. They live in this kind of weird place that it feels like it's some kind of like in-between zone. There's like this outside area where it looks like the world has gone to shambles. I don't know. They're like trying to live like their best life in like this like community that they've created. I don't know. It is very strange. I don't know. It's a very weird book. I enjoyed it, but it's hard to describe. So I don't know. I'm just gonna leave that there because I don't know. All right. Then I read Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This is one I've been on my radar since it came out. And I said, you know what, I'm going to read it. And this I loved too, honestly. Loved this book. And it is about, we follow this, woman who is kind of down and out, honestly. She works just a, crappy job and all this kind of thing. But she has this sort of, kind of long, I guess kind of estranged and weird kind of relationship with a friend that she knew, like from a sort of private boarding school that she once attended and was thrown out of for reasons. But, there's this sort of connection between them that they can't quite break, even though they don't really seem like they should be friends. I don't know. But anyway, her friend has asked her to come live with them because she has gotten married to this man who has, children from a previous marriage. And these children just will spontaneously combust. So she's been asked to kind of come in and watch the kids as they are, kind of moving into the house and everything. Story goes from there. It was just really good. Honestly, it was really great. I loved this. I think this sort of exploration of, I always love that exploration of female friendships, and also like this sort of like the otherness, these kids, it seems far-fetched, of course, that they sort of just catch on fire randomly, but there's definitely sort of metaphor for other things, right? I think here. So I really loved it. Loved the setting, loved the characters. The story was so compelling. Yeah, really, really loved it. So if you haven't gotten to that one yet, I definitely recommend. And then I read You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. This is Andrew Joseph White's adult debut novel. 5 glorious stars. I loved it so much. I do have a book chat for this as well. I'll link below. Wonderful, absolutely gritty story about this a trans man who has gotten linked up to this sort of, I don't know what we want to call it, this sort of entity that that is now living on Earth. It's comprised of like bugs and worms and things, and they have to like caretake for it, and they bring it dead bodies to eat and stuff. And then but he finds out that he's pregnant, and he wants to get rid of the baby, but the entity or whatever, the hive mind or whatever, they don't want to, and so they force him to give birth to the baby. And it's just all kinds of stuff going on. Lots of good body horror here. Of course, a lot of the conversation about what living as a trans person and control over your own body, that kind of thing, your own image, how you want to live your life, and things like that. Very gritty, dark, much like Andrew Joseph White's YA novels, which I highly recommend as well. This book was perfect, just really good, gut punch, very good. Okay, I'll link the chat below. It was perfect. Okay, next up, an actual physical book I finally have. I read, of course, where is it? Dandadan, Volume 1, by Yukinobu Tatsu. This was gifted to me by Kat from Kat's Novel Adventures. Thank you, Kat. And I had so much fun with this. This. This is a manga. We follow these 2 characters. There's like they got little guys not on the cover, but anyway, they kind of make this bet between themselves because one of them believes in ghosts, but the others doesn't. And the little guy, he believes in aliens, but she doesn't. And so they kind of make this bet to try to like prove the other exists or whatever. So the little dude, he's not a little dude, the guy goes into this like tunnel, and here he meets Turbo Granny, who was this ghost figure, gets a little possessed by her perhaps, and the story kind of goes from there. It's really good. It was just a super fun time, and spooky little gross bits. It was really fun. It was super fun. So I definitely would like to continue this series, but it was kind of just a strange, fun little ride. And I really enjoyed it. So yes, Dandadan, Volume 1. Okay, next I read, this is also for Week of Weird. I did do a vlog for Week of Weird, so I'll pick that below if you want to watch it. The Album of Dr. Moreau by Daryl Gregory. Also, I just had a super fun time with this. It was just so much fun. If you want just a fun time book, if you're looking for something quirky and fun, I mean, this is just, it was so good. We are following this sort of band of musicians that are these bioengineered animals. You can see they've got they're sort of half animal, half human, that were sort of discovered once upon a time, and they were part of experiments, right? It's the whole Moreau thing that's coming into this, right? And they were, kind of found, kind of floating in the ocean. It's a thing, but and they were brought in, and then this guy's like, hey, I'll take you in and I'll make you rock stars, because that sounds great. So it is like the final night of their like big sweeping world tour. They're like, going crazy in the hotel room with a bunch of fans and everything, and their manager and everything. And then the manager the next morning is dead. And so that starts our story of like trying to figure out what happened, as a detective is called in, I really like her too. She was a really good character. She's called in to investigate as we're figuring out a little bit about their backstory, a little bit kind of what happened, and we figure out what happened to the guy and everything as we learn about our band, and then a little bit about our detective story too, who I really liked her character. Fun, just kind of locked room mystery, because they can't leave this hotel, so part mystery, part kind of sci-fi, part kind of like crime, detective, type story. It was so much fun. Honestly, it really was. And very inventive and unique. And I really enjoyed it. So highly recommend. Such a fun time. Good stuff. All right. Then a slight kick in the gut. I read Wild Spaces by S.L. Coney. And well, this one was, like I said, a slight kick in the gut. It's a very, very short little novella. Kind of coming of age story, I would say. We've got our young fella here. What was his name again? Doesn't say, but he lives kind of on a coastal area with his parents, and then one day, like, his grandfather shows up, and his grandfather there's something about the grandfather, right? And he kind of really turns things upside down. Those tensions start to rise, and a darkness comes in. Let's just say that. And we figure out what's going on as this little boy is just really trying to, I don't want to say too much. Okay, I won't say that. But one night this kind of like hurricane kind of storm comes in, and I don't know, his life is flipped upside down, like I said, and it definitely is weird and strange, but it also has so much heart here, and it was such a beautiful story told in such a small amount of pages. It was really good, you guys, and again, this was out of my week of weird reads, and yeah, it was really good, very, very good. Really enjoyed that. I listened to an audio for The Playground by Ray Bradbury. This is a short story by Ray Bradbury. This one was a little dark and really interesting, really good. And basically, our main character is this dude who he has a kid, and he lives with like his sister or something. And his sister's like, hey, the little boy is old enough to be dropped off at the playground now. And like what we figure out about this playground is this really violent playground where people, the kids come out of there like bruised up and banged up and stuff. And the story goes from there. There's a little twist, and it was really good. It was a really good short story. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It was good. Yeah. And then I read two of the stories out of the House of Souls by Arthur Machen. That was our group read for the Week of Weird. And I read the two that I hadn't read because I had already read two of the other stories from there. But so I read Fragment of Life and The Inmost Light. Ended up really enjoying those. I think I liked The Inmost Light a bit better. The Fragment of Life was a little confusing, I will say. But yeah, but it's really interesting. I like going back to kind of the roots of kind of weird fiction and seeing these really strange kind of old stories, and I enjoyed those. All right. I finished this short story collection. It is called Profane Alters, weird sword and sorcery stories. Like I said, it is a short story collection edited by Sam Richard. This is from Weird Punk Books. I love the Weird Punk Books. And it has, 7 stories in it. So I read like kind of one a day to get through the series. And I really enjoyed the bulk of these. And like it says, weird sword and sorcery stories. So you've got that kind of old school, you think of old school fantasy type story settings with, swords and, guys and gals doing that kind of thing. And then you throw in some weird creepy bits. And I mean, that's really kind of the tone of a lot of these stories. And yeah, they were very inventive and creative, and overall just a really good collection if you like that kind of thing, I want to see a little, a different take on those sorts of kind of more classical kind of fantasy stories. Yeah, it was a good time. I really enjoyed it. So yeah. Anyway, then I listened to an audiobook for Orbital by Samantha Harvey. Another kind of shorty. This is all shorty. Most of these are shorties, and this one was good. It was very interesting. It's very kind of slow moving type of story. More really about the characters than any sort of plot or anything. But we're following this group of people that are orbiting the planet in a what's the word, like a space station. Yeah, so there are people from different countries, and there's some couple cosmonauts on there as well, and basically they make their orbits around the Earth. I think there's like 16 or so different orbits. I can't remember how many total there were, but as we learn, I mean, really, we were just digging into these characters. Like some of it is like how they became an astronaut, what they're doing like on the space station. We go back into a little bit of their past stories. Kind of, I think sort of grand, maybe, story about what it means to be living and being human and living in life, and the smallness of Earth compared with the, galaxy and space and the, infinite, immeasurable space, I enjoyed it, but, it is, it's just really a story about these characters. So I can't say this is going to be something for everyone, that they would enjoy it, but I know, yeah, I kind of liked just kind of digging in, and kind of felt like you were on the space station with them. Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. And then I read I want to say The Remains. There's no The Remains by Andrew Cull. Another kind of shorty. This is a horror novel. There's another gut punch. I read a lot of like gut punchy books this month. Yeah, this is like grief horror essentially. Right in the beginning of the story, we've got a married couple whose young son is murdered pretty horrifically, and he's kidnapped and taken to this house, and he's murdered inside the house. And it picks up some time later. The wife has had basically checked herself into a sort of mental facility just to try to cope, with things. And right at the beginning of the book, she's releasing herself and trying to not necessarily move on, but I guess she's ready to get out into the world again. She and her husband are kind of separated at this point. And she is just kind of pulling up to this house at night and watching, and she doesn't sleep well, and she's still very, of course, in the throes of grief and figuring out what is going on, because the killer has not been found or anything either. So, or no, he was dead. He killed himself afterwards. So there's just this sort of, there's these unanswered questions of why, that she has and everything. And then like one night when she's outside the house looking in, she sees like something in a window, right? And that's like all she needs to like start her brain going. And so she decides to buy this home and move in, because that seems like really a great idea. It's not a great idea, and the darkness that lurks inside is more than she really ever bargained for. It is heartbreaking. It is really heartbreaking. It, really goes into grief of, loss of a child, and what would you do to see them just one more time, It was very, like I said, heart-wrenching and really good. Some really good spooky scenes inside this house. I love a spooky house book, That's like kind of something that really like gets me scared. And this one has some really good scenes. And yeah, it was good, you guys. It was really good. I definitely recommend it. So yes. I finished another arc that I had, even though it's a little late past the expiration date. That's not the word I'm looking for. Publishing date. But the Bewitching by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Really liked this. I normally really have liked all of her books that I've read. I was really excited to get to them because it's witchy vibes, and this was really good. I really enjoyed it. This is a kind of multi-generational type of story. We're following, we get kind of a couple of different timelines. Our sort of more present day storyline is this lady who is studying at this kind of small university, and some creepy things that are going on there. Okay, we'll say that. And it's linked into a sort of past storyline of her, is it her grandmother, great grandmother? I forget now. A descendant, right? That her storyline of, of the witchy bits going on there. We'll just say that, right? So if you like, again, multiple storylines that have this, or familial stories where we learn, things that kind of the story goes back and forth. And then again, I love this like school setting and our, more present storyline. There's also a kind of middle storyline that we get as well, because our lady is there doing research for, I think, she's getting her master's or doctorate or something. So she's, doing her research for her thing, right? And to look into this author who is from this area, who went to school at the school that she's going to, who basically wrote one, very few stories, and then, sort of disappeared. And so there's a mystery of that too. So there's a lot going on in here, but I really liked how it was told. And like I said, I like it when a story kind of goes back and forth in time, and as we piece together the story. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I liked the ending. There was this kind of twisty bits at the end, and yeah, I really liked it. So definitely recommend it, especially if you like, Silvia Moreno-Garcia's previous work. I think that you'll like this one as well. It was really good. I read this book, which I can't find my copy now. I'm not sure where it is, but The Elephant in the Room by Goldberg Sloan, because I also, of course, took part in the Carnival, which is hosted by Slime and Slashers over for her Patreon. So yeah, I do have to be a member of her Patreon to join in, where we read books that are like set at a carnival, or have circuses, or clowns, or that kind of thing. And this is a middle grade book about a young girl and her father who befriend this older man. I have this in a vlog as well, I'll link below, where I talk a little bit more about it. But and they, he kind of takes in this like retired circus elephant and takes it on his property. It's a very kind of sweet story, and it was a sweet story. It's good. I'll leave it there. Another arc that I took care of a lot of my arcs this month too, which I was very go me. All right. So Oxford Soju Club by Jinwoo Park, and I really liked this. This is a, what's the word I'm looking for? Cat and mouse kind of spy versus spy type of novel, where we are set in Oxford, of course, but there is this sort of faction of North Korean spies that are living there, and then there's an American, couple of American spies that are living there from the CIA. They're how their paths cross. They're like looking at each other, and then there's this restaurateur guy who is from South Korea who has come to Oxford just for a sort of change of pace, and he opens up this Soju Club, which is a restaurant, and how, this kind of becomes the hub of all the things that are happening in here. Like I said, it's like very cat and mouse, and everybody's looking at everybody, kind of thing. And I really loved these characters and how it all came together, and the sort of political nature of, of spying on people, and it was really good, very compelling. And it was really well read. I think this is his debut novel, and it was very good. I have a book chat about that as well. I'll link it below if I try to remember. Next up, I also can't find this book. Church of Marvels by Leslie Perry. I loved this book. This is an historical fiction story set in sort of old New York. Right in the very beginning of the story, we learn about this Church of Marvels, which is this kind of sideshow type of thing that's out on Coney Island. And it's been, a horrendous fire broke out, and a couple of the people died, including, the owner, the mother of our characters that we meet. But the mom that kind of ran this place, and so she has died. And so she has these two daughters that are twins that are now kind of lost without her. And so one of the twins has just kind of ran into the city and leaving the other twin behind. And so she's kind of trying to figure out what's going on with her. And then we've got another storyline of this person who has found a baby while working at another night shift. And so he is trying to track down who the baby belongs to. There's another storyline of, I don't remember the character's name, but I loved her so much. Her life here, and we do figure out how these storylines do kind of intersect. There's this one part where the woman is sent to, I can't remember her name right now, oh my god, is sent to this sort of sanatorium because, that's kind of what happened to women back in the day when, you were like being too much or, speaking too loudly or getting on somebody's nerves. They just chucked you out there. That's really, a lot of that was kind of really hard to read. But this was just a glorious look into old New York and how hard the life can be back then, especially for women. But it was so good, you guys. I could not. It was so good. I can't recommend it enough. So good. Okay. If you like historical fiction, add this one to your list. Okay. I did finish out reading. Oh my gosh. I got stuff over here. The Beauty. So I already read the first book, the first story in here, which is The Beauty. I read that back earlier this year, but there is a second story in here called Peace Pipe. And so I read that one. Kind of a shorty. And very interesting kind of a sci-fi story about this lady who is in quarantine for a long while. Oh my god, the guys are like blowing leaves out there. If you hear that, sorry. But and she is a linguistics type of person, so they have made contact with this planet, and she was brought in to kind of strike up conversation with the living beings there, but it kind of didn't go very well. Oh my god, they're like outside the window, and some bad stuff started going down, and so she's kind of stuck in this kind of hard place. And but then as she's in this quarantine, she starts conversing with this kind of voice in the pipe, and the pipe voice has a language that she doesn't know, but she's gonna figure it out, and they have this back and forth with this mysterious language. And it was very interesting, a little strange, but overall I really liked it, and I liked the beauty very much. And so I don't know, if you like weird, I think this author is for you. All right. I don't really know what else to say, but it was good. Okay. This book, you guys. I read The Lamb by Lucy Rose. Yeah, I had this, the ebook on hold from my library. It came in, wasn't necessarily a shorty. It wasn't crazy long, but this book. I'm still thinking about this one. This one hit me hard, you guys. This is a freaking wild ass book. Okay, so we have our main character is this young girl. I think she's like 11 or 12, maybe 10. I can't remember now. And she lives with her mom, kind of in this kind of like little, slightly kind of secluded, kind of like cottage type thing. The father is dead. It's just she and her mom, and her mom has this thing. She has a thing of adopting what she calls strays, because they live near this kind of wilderness wildlife kind of area, you know, where people like go hiking and stuff, you know, not wildlife area. You know what I'm trying to say. Oh my God, words. Anyway, and she brings them in, yeah, because usually they're looking for help because they're lost their way or something like that. Yeah, she brings them in, and then they proceed to eat them. Yeah. This is a cannibal story. So if you don't like that kind of thing, don't read this book. Let me tell you. This book made me squeamish. And y'all, I've read some crazy stuff in my life of reading. I don't think nothing has made me actually feel a little sick to my stomach than this book. I'm going to be honest with you. So just proceed with caution. Because if it gets my stomach turning, and I don't normally, you know, get bothered by that kind of thing. I don't know. Just like I said, just proceed with caution on this one. But it was also just like this beautifully told story. The writing here was just so gorgeous, you know, about these awful things that are going on, and you feel so sad for this little girl. She's, you know, she goes to school and everything, but she, man, I don't know. It is wonderful, but it is something else. It is something to read. So one day this stray shows up, and it's a woman, and the mom is like very, very smitten, and this lady proceeds to turn everything upside down for everybody, you know. And when the ending of this, I mean, just rip my heart out and stomp on it, why don't you? Yeah. This is a gut punch. It is a very difficult read. It is very emotional, but it is like I said, beautifully told also. And the characters here are so rich, even though you don't like some of them. You know, like the mom is just, how do you live like this, right? I recommend it lightly, but it was really good. All right, I did read Swamplandia by Karen Russell. I ended up doing this on audio because I was running out of month. But this was, of course, our book club pick for the Death by TBR book club, which I co-host with Kelly from Kelly Hooked on Books. And I was really excited for this one, but I didn't end up loving it as much as I had hoped. And that may be just expectations of what I thought, you know, by reading the blurb, you know, what I thought was going to be going on in here. You know, we're following a young girl named, what's her name, Ava, I think. Yeah, she's 13, and she's part of a family that they live in like you know, the Everglade kind of swamp area of Florida, and they have this little kind of theme park called Swamplandia where they do alligator wrestling and, you know, stuff like that. Her mom was like this diver that dived into the water, you know. It's a thing. The mom ends up dying kind of pretty early on in her story. She has cancer. And Swamplandia itself is really floundering, you know, financially. And so the father kind of takes off and leaves the kids there. There's an older daughter who's like an older teenager. There's an older son. and he, skedaddles to the city to try to earn some money for Swamplandia. And I don't know, it's just this story of this family, really, through our different characters. And but it gets really dark. I wasn't expecting the darkness that is in here, and especially for Ava and what she has to deal with. I don't know. I thought it was going to be a bit more of a just. I was expecting it to be a bit weird. I thought maybe a bit more magical realism in here, but it ended up being a bit more grounded in reality. I don't know. I think maybe it's just a me problem. It's like I said, the expectations that I had going into this. So I was left a little, like, oh, this wasn't what I thought this was going to be, kind of thing. It wasn't that I think the story was bad necessarily, but, just wasn't what I thought. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say further than that, but I finally got this book off my shelf, at least, because I've had this for literal years. So yeah. I mean, I would definitely read Karen Russell again. I have read some of her short stories and loved them, and I would read more for her by sure, I think, for sure. So, I mean, not like, they didn't turn me off from the author or anything like that. Okay, another arc. Look at me go. Yes, The Mean Ones by Tatiana Schlock-Bunn. Also have a book check for this, so I'm going to get below. But this was a really fun one. Kind of feels like folk horror type stuff. You might like this one. This, we're following a woman who is a survivor, a sort of lone survivor of these murders that happened at like a summer camp. So her and her two friends were killed, or and so she's like years later trying to just kind of live her life, move on with her life, and perhaps though it's hard to leave your past behind you, as she goes off to this kind of cabin in the woods with her boyfriend and like another couple. Perhaps some of the same things are happening that were happening back then when she was a teenager. And story kind of goes from there as we kind of go backwards and forth. Again, another backwards and forth through time as we get kind of the events that were happening at the camp, when she was young, and then as it affecting what is going on in our more present storyline. I love to look here into girl friendships, particularly young girls, how that can be really awesome, but also really kind of toxic and mean. And there's that whole kind of mean girl thing going on in here. Yeah, really good. Really liked it. Definitely recommend it. So I'll leave that. If you want more, check out my book chat if you want to. Okay. Also, I can't find this book, but I do know I own it. But Riot Baby by Toshio Nobuchi. Okay, this was great. Y'all, this was really great. Very short novella, sci-fi story. We're following our main. Got several things going on here. To be such a short novel, it packs a lot in here, and it was very interesting. Our main guy, basically, that we're following was born during the riots, the LA riots back in the 90s, so that's why he's the Riot Baby. But we pick up some years later, and he's like a teenager, and his family has moved to New York City, and so like that. But there's this violent life that is still kind of present for him, and then we pick him up a few years later. He's now in prison because again that life of violence is kind of still there for him. And we also his mom we get a little story from his mom, and then from his sister. Now his sister has these like really amazing like powers, that are kind of hard to explain, but she's got things going on. And then of course as the kind of end of the story, when he's released from prison, there's this whole thing about kind of like AI being kind of in control. They are released to this almost like idyllic little neighborhood, but they are watched by everything that they do, and even like this little kind of like a chip almost, embedded in them to like control like where they go and what they're able to do. And I don't know, it's very, of course, interesting to look into sort of the prison system in general, here, especially here in America, and it was very good. Again, short but very impactful story. It was just super interesting. A lot of great ideas going on in here. I highly recommend it. Very good. I'm trying to be. This video is so long. Okay, then I read Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio, and I really liked this. I know this was a little divisive when it was first released, and I get why. I totally get why. It does. I think a lot of the complaints for that, it feels like an incomplete story. And I get that, but I just sort of, I see this as a night in the life of these people's story kind of thing. And I just read it like that, and I've left feeling okay about it. We're following these kind of group of characters that meet up in this graveyard at this kind of old school, like university. They've got like the university that's where I live. That's an old graveyard too. So I kind of was like, oh yeah, I get what this is. Right? Some are students, some are like bartenders, just people that work late night shifts, that kind of thing. It's like certain kind of folks that stay up late at night, right? They just kind of had this little bond that they have formed between it's like five, six or seven or so the characters. I can't remember now, but one night, two of the people see this dude come into the graveyard, and he, is digging the hole and everything, and then he buries these rats in there. They're like lab rat looking rats, and this starts off this little inquiry, this kind of investigation by some of these characters into what's going on as we figure out what's going on. And then they kind of figure out what's going on, and then like our story kind of ends, right? There's no like resolution as far as like the guy that's buried the rats, what happened to him, we don't really know, right? So there is I guess, it is maybe incomplete in that way, that we don't get like a full circle kind of resolution to the story, but I don't know, I didn't really mind that. I really liked getting this investigation over that just the course of one night, right? As we learn a little bit about our characters, and perhaps some of them have this connection to something that's going on, about what's going on here. Okay, I'm just saying that. I don't know. I just really liked it. I say just give it a go and see if you like it. It's one of those kinds of stories, I think, right? Okay, another arc. The Hunger We Pass Down by Jin-Suk Fong Lee. I loved this book. Another gut punch of a book, you guys. I just read so many emotional things this month. This is another multi-generational, multiple timeline story focusing on this sort of matriarchal line of Chinese women, starting in our time in Hong Kong in like the early 1940s, and with our character Gigi, who I loved, and then and then we follow her daughter, and then her daughter, and then her daughter. So you see where I'm going. So our more modern kind of storylines takes place in Vancouver in 2024 as we meet Alice, who's like a 40-year-old. She's got two children, one of which is a daughter, and something weird is starting to go on in her house. As we go backwards and forwards in time, there's a lot of things in here about generational trauma, generational violence, haunting, cursed family lines, that kind of thing that is handed down through the women of the family. Just really kind of dark, very heavy things in here, particularly about in that 1940s timeline with Gigi. And then when the Japanese came in, and Gigi was literally ripped off the street at 14 and forced into this house and lived there for 5 years as a comfort woman, as if you know what that is. And she was, basically forced to, be there for the Japanese men. You know what I mean? Yeah. Against her will. Right. So that lot of that was really heavy to read. It really was. But that was life for a lot of women in China, Hong Kong area, in South Korea, or not South Korea, Korea at the time, wherever the Japanese were, and kind of invading. So really appreciated that storyline. There's also a spooky house vibes going on in here. I really loved this book. I love this book. 5 stars from me. Can't recommend it enough. But it's heavy. It's a heavy one. Yeah, you will cry. All right. But I definitely recommend it. Okay, finished off a couple more shorties. My Secret Admirer, I read. I needed something a bit lighter. Yeah, I really did. After reading some very heavy stories. And this was fun. This is by Carol Ellis, part of the point horror type of stories, very quick, fun read. we're following a girl. What's her name? Jenny. She is new to town. This takes place in like Colorado, I think it was. She's new to town. It's like kind of the summer, kind of before schools start about to start up again, and she's left home alone. Okay, first of all, y'all just moved there, but whatever. So her parents are out of town. She's trying to make friends. She's met, a couple of the other teenagers, around town. And, she's like got a crush on this guy, But then they have this thing called I forget what they call it, but this mountain areas where people go like climbing and all these cliffs and everything. And right at the beginning of the story, one of the other, girls has fallen off a cliff and she's in a coma, And then there's this, she totally has what she thinks is a secret admirer, and leaving, little things on her porch and things like that, leaving, messages on her phone like, oh, I'm so drawn to you. And she's like, oh my God, anyway. Kind of twisty and turny little story here. Honestly, I had a really good time with this. I had a fun time with this. I flew through it. Like, I just was like, I gotta know what's going on here, Some of the things are very much a product of his time. I think this was like a book written in the 80s. I think it was like 89 or so. Let me look. 89, yeah. So, but honestly, fun time ride with this one. So I liked that one. I did finally read Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. I've had this book on my shelf forever. Okay. And I really enjoyed this. There's another story in here too called Moonlight Shadow, but Kitchen, it takes up the bulk of this story, the bulk of this book. This was also written in the 80s, I think. 1988, yes. This translation was copyright 1993, so it looks like it wasn't put out in English till the 90s, but the story's from the 80s. Anyway, we've got a couple of things going on in here. This is also a very sort of look into grief, a lot of like grief, people going through the grieving process in here. Our main lady she has just lost her grandmother. Who was her grandmother? Yes, her grandmother. Her parents are already dead, so her grandmother was who raised her, essentially, and so when she loses her grandmother, she's like, what do I do now? And so she's kind of taken in by this guy named Yuichi, I think is his name, and he and his mom, who we learn is not who's not actually a woman. He's living life as a woman, so to me that was very like ahead of its time for like 1988. I think probably especially in Japan, I don't know, but and then something else happens and they're just going through grief, and they're trying to like maybe help each other out, kind of like thing, and be there for each other as they're both dealing with grief. Very kind of still type of story. I think like a lot of Japanese writing, there's not a lot necessarily that happens here, but it's told in a minimal yet beautiful way. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I'm very glad to have finally read this. I did really enjoy it, and yeah. I ended up with something super fun. I needed something fun. And On Off by, what's this by? I think just by A1. I don't know, whatever that means. Volume 1. And this was so fun. Oh my gosh. This is like a basically little kind of like office romance, essentially. This is 18 plus. Okay, there are some explicit scenes in here, okay, but our young dude here is a college kid, and he has a part of this like company that has started with a group of his friends, and they are building basically this app, kind of thing and they are presenting it to this company that this guy works for. He's like the big head guy, Anyway, he's one of the big head guys of this company that they've gone in to do this presentation for. The presentation, bless his heart, kind of flops, but maybe there's a little something going on here. They do kind of have like this one night stand, but maybe maybe he is a bit more into him, and maybe I think sparks may fly a little bit further on as our story continues. I cannot wait to read more in this story. So I really loved this, and I really liked the characters. He comes across as this real hard ass, like just like you're not gonna like him, but I think he's not quite who we think he is. You know what I'm saying? And he's just like lovable, and he's just a young kid. And I can't wait to read more of this. It's so fun. So yes, but I get saucy bits in here. Okay, I'm just saying. So, but yeah, it was really good. Okay, and that's guys. That's how I ended my month. Like a lot of heavy things mixed in with some fun things. I knocked a lot of my arcs off my NetGalley shelf. I got my rating up to like 70 something %. Like I'm doing really good. So I'm feeling really really good about that. And I just had a really awesome month. I had so much fun with Shorty September and Week of Weird. If you joined us for Week of Weird, thank you. If you joined us for Shorty September, thank you. Just a fantastic month. And this is very long, so if you've made it this far, bless you. So let me know how your September went and what's your favorite. I can't even pick a favorite. I read so many good books this month. I don't even know. What else? That's it. I'm gonna leave it here. Thanks for watching. Hope October is getting off to a good start for you so far, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, bye guys.